If I promised you the best cup of coffee you ever had in your life, would you spend $300 on a coffee brewer? You may not have to, because if you leave a comment down below, you could get one of these for free. I started roasting coffee years ago in a pan. It's a pain in the butt and it's inconsistent. I didn't want to buy a roaster because they're just too expensive. So I came up with a method of roasting coffee in the oven and did a video about that, and that produced consistent results, but not earth-shattering, mind-blowing coffee. So I bit the bullet, literally, went for broke and bought the Alio Bullet Roaster. And after hundreds of roasts, I started getting really amazing roasts. Notes of raspberry, blueberry, rustic dried fig and apricot with fragrant notes of rue herb. Rue herb? Really? I thought all these descriptives were a bunch of bull crap until I started making really good roasts, and these flavors actually do exist. But a good roast is only one piece of the puzzle. Freshness matters. Grind size matters. Water temperature matters. The ratio of ground beans to water matters. Steep time matters. 90% of us just want to press a button and drink coffee. So if you have gone through the effort of sourcing really fresh quality roasted beans, and you have the ratio of water to coffee right, a good brewer should do the rest, right? Here are 4 machines. Now, I've been using the Cuisinart $50 brewer forever. It dies about every 6 years and I just get a new one. This one here is the Moccamaster KBGT brewer. This is the Breville Precision brewer. And this is the Zwilling Affinity brewer. I want to see if I prefer any one brewer over the other. Now, I purchased all of these brewers with my own money, except for this one, the Zwilling Affinity. That one was given to me by the company. I have not had any communication with any of the manufacturers about this video, and no money is exchanged between us. They have no idea what I publish on the channel and have no input on the outcome of this video. But if this video helps you in any way, please consider subscribing and liking it, because I can only continue making these videos if they're popular. And you can really be there for me with 2 easy clicks. Thank you. I wanted to choose the simplest method for brewing coffee and the most universal. Here is how I narrowed it down to these 3 machines. The brewers had to be SCA certified. The folks who determine the standard for coffee are the Specialty Coffee Association. These brewers have successfully brewed coffee within the SCA Golden Cup recommendations. They're made up of international coffee science experts and professional coffee tasters. Now, a rigorous checklist for what it takes for a coffee brewer to meet their standards is on their website, and the link is below. The brewers needed to be fully automatic with one-touch operation. The Moccamaster is just that, it has one switch operation. And so does the Zwilling. The Zwilling prompts you to enter the number of cups that you want to brew, and then it does the rest. The Breville can operate completely manually or fully automatically. It gives you an enormous amount of brewing options that are completely customizable and configurable to your preferences. They needed to brew 8 cups or more. If you're entertaining guests or have more than 2 people in your household, a 4-cup or smaller brew is just not going to be enough. My trusty Cuisinart over here, it does 14 cups. The Breville will do 12 cups, and the Zwilling Moccamaster will do 10 cups. They needed to have good reviews online, and finally, they needed to pour into a thermal carafe. Coffee that sits over a heating element starts to taste worse and worse with time. I felt that in a thermal carafe, you could drink a cup within an hour of brewing it without the coffee being compromised by the heating element. The Moccamaster is handmade in the Netherlands and offers a 5-year warranty. The Zwilling also offers a 5-year warranty as long as you register it on their website. The Breville is made in China, so is the Zwilling, and it offers a 2-year warranty. The Cuisinart is also made in China as well, but I bought it from Costco, and technically Costco will let me return it for any reason, anytime, but I don't like to manipulate the system, and like I said, the Cuisinart has about a 6 to 7 year lifespan from my experience. Both the Zwilling and the Moccamaster have a funneled opening into the carafe that is supposed to mix the coffee and give a more consistent cup. The Breville does not. You also need to tell both the Zwilling and the Breville what your water hardness is, low, medium, or high. My water hardness is around 185, so it's moderately soft. The Breville also prompts you to choose water hardness as well, and comes with a test strip to determine your water hardness, which I either lost or could not find in the box. The Moccamaster does not ask for water hardness. I needed to also make sure that my coffee met SCA standards. Arabica beans, check. Roast degree, check. Grind size, check. 5.5 grams of coffee to 100 milliliters of water, check. One of the reasons why my Cuisinart is not SCA certified is because of brew temperature inconsistencies. The SCA standard for water temperature is between 195 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit or 90.5 and 96 degrees Celsius. James Hoffman did a video on inexpensive brewers, and one of the problems with them is that the heating element for the water is at the base. The hot water pushes cold water through the spray heads onto the coffee grounds before the heated water can get to the grounds. Cuisinart for most of the time was around 175 degrees and barely crossed over 195 degrees Fahrenheit until the last bit of water was left in the brewer. All three of these brewers were consistently between 195 and 205 degrees throughout the entire brew cycle. It is possible for you and I to get SCA training and become SCA certified coffee tasters. I plan on getting this training, but I'm not certified yet, so that would make me an amateur when it comes to tasting coffee. The good news is that if you're watching this video, it's likely that you're an amateur as well. I do have a sensitive palate, and after roasting and tasting pounds and pounds of coffee each week, I feel that I have developed a more discerning palate. If this amateur can tell the difference, it's more than likely that you'll be able to as well. The beans I chose today are Rwanda Nyamasheke Gitwe from Sweet Maria's. My roast is a city roast, which is kind of in the middle of the darkness spectrum, and if you roast your own beans, I'm going to give you a link to the roast profile of my coffee that we're tasting here today in the description. These beans have been degassed for 4 days. When you roast a bean, carbon dioxide is trapped in the bean and escapes over time. But CO2 is trapped in the ground coffee as well, and it blocks many of the subtle flavors of the coffee. Each one of these coffee makers has a science behind them that sets them apart as a brand. For example, the Zwilling has an integrated drip circulator as well as a bloom time in their brew cycle. So by pausing the brew cycle, a brewer gives time for the CO2 to escape before it finishes the brew. This is referred to as a bloom. All right, so I have the pleasure of being with my son Yanni here, who is going to mix these up, so I have no idea which one I'm tasting as I get blindfolded. So if you could do that, that'd be great. Okay. All right, thank you very much. And we are there. Definitely there. Okay, so let's give this a try. There's gonna be a little bit of slurping here, so I apologize in advance. This was the greatest lesson I've ever learned about brewing coffee. You're about to see my conclusions, and they were totally wrong. All right. So these three were definitely better than this one. This one had bitter notes in it. I'm not sure which one that is. This one was sweeter, and this one was more complex. I'll try that again. This one is definitely my favorite. This one is my least favorite. These two are really, really similar. Very good. This one has more sweetness to it. Let's see what we got here. So, my least favorite was the Breville. I'm really surprised. Not sure why. Try that again. I just feel like it has some bitter notes to it. And I had it set on the gold. I'm wondering if with gold it had that blooming feature. I don't know. Let's try this again. So these three are definitely better than the Breville. I'm shocked. This is the Moccamaster, and that was my favorite out of all three. This one was the Cuisinart. Interesting. And this one was the Zwilling. This is a meter that specifically measures total dissolved solids in coffee. So let's take a look and see what it actually measures with each coffee. All right, and here we have the Cuisinart. That 1.87. I had that set to bold. I always set mine to bold. I kind of wanted to keep it the same. I didn't want to change it. That's how I do it. Maybe the bold gives it more of an extraction. 1.87 is actually out of the range that's allowable by the SCA. But, I mean, this is for us to drink at home, right? When I blind tasted the coffees, they tasted very good, but when I used each brewer over the course of a few weeks, my opinion drastically changed about them. First, let's talk about the pros and cons of each machine. Out of the four machines, the easiest machine to use is the Cuisinart. You can just press brew, but I suggest you press bold first, then brew for a better cup of coffee. The second easiest is the Zwilling. Pick your cup size and begin brewing. The Breville is far from just a one-touch operation machine. It offers many manual features, but if you look over the instructions, the button controls are intuitive. It comes with 2 brew baskets. One is the flat basket and one is the cone shaped. I'll go over this in more detail later. So the Moccamaster has just one button. You make sure the carafe is pressing the side switch and just turn it on. From an operator's standpoint, it could not get any simpler. But that's where the problems begin. It's a little awkward to use. You have to slip the brew basket in sideways under the water wand. It's clunky. It's got a flimsy cap. It's kind of clumsy. When the brew is done, you have to swap out the siphon for the lid cover. It's cumbersome. From the 3 SCA certified machines, the Zwilling is the easiest to use. Earlier I mentioned that the Moccamaster brewed 10 cups, but it doesn't. It only brews 8 cups. It's disappointing. And like the Moccamaster, the Zwilling tells you it could do 10 cups, but it too only does 8 cups or 1200 milliliters. The Breville, as advertised, will make 12 cups of coffee or 1900 milliliters. The Cuisinart can make 14 cups. Here is something interesting. The Breville company sponsored a study held by UC Davis to determine which factors affect the taste of coffee consumed by average coffee drinkers, not experts. They concluded that a cone-shaped filter made a more flavorful cup of coffee when brewing 8 cups or less. For this reason, Breville sells their brewer with both baskets and recommends removing the cone-shaped basket when you're brewing more than 8 cups of coffee. I've tested this with many batches of 10-cup brews through both types of filters, and I agree with their conclusions. By changing the filter shapes, brews over 8 cups taste identical to brews under 8 cups. So for larger brew batches, the Breville wins hands down. The Cuisinart build quality is hard to beat, and for years in my home, it's brewed at least 2 batches of coffee per day, and each machine I've purchased has lasted me at least 6 years. The Zwilling is also a solid machine. Now, the Moccamaster is really pretty flimsy. As I showed you earlier, here's a perfect example. When I tried sliding it out from under my cabinet so I could fill it with water, this attached base keeps falling off, and it's really hard to put back on. It's not so fast. It's really cumbersome. I also do not like that I have to remove that funnel insert to put a standard cap on the carafe, and adding the grinds to the brew basket, it's kind of awkward. For a $350 machine, I would want it to be a little bit more solid and easier to use. Now, the Breville, this machine is truly built like a tank. It's heavy, it's well made. The insulated carafe is very beefy, but its heft, surprisingly, doesn't keep the coffee for as long as you would expect. My Yeti mug will keep coffee hotter longer than this carafe. But for construction quality, the Breville is the best of the lot. If you've experienced a really good cup of coffee, chances are you will be looking for something beyond the Cuisinart or style of Cuisinart drip brewer. When pressing the bold button, it makes a nice cup of coffee, but the extraction with low temperature water really destroys what could be an exceptional cup of coffee. Now, the Zwilling is just as easy to use as the Cuisinart. It does ask you to manually enter the number of cups you're brewing and does a far better job of extracting the subtle flavors of the beans, much better than the Cuisinart. For me, the Moccamaster's greatest weakness is actually the one-touch operation. I'm going to talk about this in greater detail later, but because I prefer what's called a city roast or a lighter roast, there are manual variables that need adjusting to extract the most desirable flavors out of my beans. At 4 cups, it makes a really good cup of coffee, the Moccamaster, but over 4 cups, it's as if I'm using a completely different machine, and I can't do anything to change that. The Breville offers the best of both worlds. The first 3 are factory brew settings: fast as 1, gold is the other, and strong is the third. Both fast and strong settings produce an awful cup of coffee. Fast makes a weak cup, and strong, when brewing a city roast, makes it taste terrible. It's as if it intentionally extracts all of the harsh flavors out of the roast. The gold setting produces a mediocre cup, kind of. However, there is a My Brew feature which is a game changer. It allows you to change the water temperature, the bloom time, and the brew time. Just after 2 tries, I nailed the perfect brew for my coffee. I'm gonna list that brew, those settings, in the description below. Using beans roasted at a level of city with the Breville, I have brewed many different beans from all over the world, and I have not needed to change the grind size or water to coffee ratios. With my custom setting, each cup has been excellent. For versatility, the Breville is the best of all 4. Now, at some point, depending on your water hardness, usually every 6 months, you're going to need to descale your machine. Each one of the machines has simple instructions on how to do that, and for all 4, the process of descaling is about the same. Now, clearly, after you brew some coffee, you're going to need to break down the brew basket and carafe and clean it. The easiest is the Zwilling. You dump the grinds, wash the basket, clean the carafe, done. The Moccamaster is just as easy, but there are more parts to clean, like the brew basket cap and the siphon insert. The Breville is also easy, but you have to remember to remove the cone insert because coffee will get trapped between it and the bottom of the brew basket. And these tabs here, they're also a bit of a pain in the butt to get used to lining them up. Believe it or not, the hardest one to clean is the Cuisinart, because after a month or so of brewing, you'll notice that coffee accumulates on the walls of the water chamber, and it's really narrow. It's hard to get in there and clean it. The easiest to clean out of all 4 is the Zwilling. Although I prefer a city or a lighter roast, you may prefer a darker roast. So after roasting darker beans and brewing them in these 4 brewers, the least desirable coffee came from the Cuisinart. It had no character, and it was just a muddled, strong tasting coffee. The Breville needed a little tweaking for a darker roast. I had to speed up the water flow time in my custom brew settings. Once I dialed it in, it made a great cup of coffee at 4 and at 8 cups. However, switching between preferred custom brews means you have to keep track of your settings on your own, as the Breville, it only remembers the last custom brew setting you entered. I would love to see a future update to be able to store multiple custom settings. The Zwilling made a really good cup of coffee at both 4 and 8 cups. The Moccamaster at 4 cups really made the best brew out of all 4 machines. But at 8 cups, it was almost as bad as the Cuisinart, producing like a flat average coffee. It turns out that Moccamaster does make another brewer with a manual drip stop. I'm not sure if that machine brews a better batch of coffee at 8 cups. In their glass carafe category of brewers, they have a separate switch that controls different brew amounts. Not sure if this changes anything. And for some mysterious reason, this option is not available for their metal carafe brewing machines. For 4 cups, Moccamaster makes the best coffee with a darker roast. If you're willing to play with the custom settings, the Breville comes in second when brewing a dark roast at both 4 and 8 cups. But if you're looking for convenience at both 4 and 8 cups, the Zwilling made a great cup of coffee with the press of a button. The cup it produced had just slightly less character than the Breville, but it's a close second. The SCA standard for bean roasts is between 63 and 48 on what is known as an Agtron scale. The lower the number, the darker the roast. My beans were in the mid-50s, which is considered in the middle or a city roast. The Moccamaster made a really delicious cup of coffee with one-touch operation at 4 cups. At 8 cups, it's very different. All the subtleties that are present at 4 cups, they're gone. The Zwilling does make a nice cup of coffee as well, but not as flavorful as the Moccamaster at 4 cups. However, at 8 cups, it tasted the same as if it were brewed at 4-cup batches. The coffee from the Cuisinart was the least tasty from all 4 brewers. Not a horrible cup of coffee, just average. I normally like to drink a hot cup of coffee. At a higher temperature, coffee tastes different. When I blind tasted those coffees, they were at a temperature which for me starts to border on too cool. At that temperature, the Moccamaster is the clear winner. Without too much fuss on the Breville, I was able to dial in delicious coffees using my custom settings and the appropriate basket. For lighter roasts, overall winner is the Breville. Look, if you're not serious about your beans, you will not benefit from jumping up from the $60 Cuisinart to any of the other brewers. But forking over $300 or more for a brewer is tough. So if you're starting to source better coffee beans and you want to venture past an inexpensive machine, the Zwilling is a good option at around $200. It makes a good cup of coffee and it's easy to use, but remember, it will only make a maximum of 8 cups, not 10. The best brewer overall with the most flexibility, the Breville. I highly recommend you start off with my custom brew settings, and as I mentioned earlier, those settings are listed in the description below. Here are my bonus brewing tips of the day. First and foremost, how your water tastes will drastically change how your coffee tastes. I did cover this in another video, and a link will be available at the end of this video. That is why we measure the total dissolved solids in water using this inexpensive meter or the test strips that I lost when unpacking my machines. Too many minerals in your water will affect the taste. Similarly, you should not use reverse osmosis water or distilled water because it will also affect the taste negatively. And recently, I started wetting my filters before adding the grinds. It allows for far greater consistency from brew to brew because how water absorbs into the filter each time will make the brew taste differently. In this box is a brand new Zwilling brewer that could be yours. Once this video crosses over 100,000 views and has at least 100 comments, I will use a random generator to pick a lucky winner. Do you have a favorite coffee brewer? Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments down below, and check out one of these videos here. Cheers.